Good evening and welcome to this new program on business accounting at the IBSL. So I hope I'm audible to everybody, and you can also see the screen. So I welcome you all once again to this program. We have about 43 odd joining this program today. So we will start today, and this journey will be going till November this year, and we have a lot of topics to be covered, but I'm hopeful that there won't be any interruptions during this time period where we have already experienced a lot of interruptions with even the earlier program that I was running. It had about a stoppage for about 2 months, but I'm hopeful that this will go on as scheduled, and we will complete the syllabus on time, where I think the examinations also might be somewhere in November if everything goes on well. Right, that is all about what our plans are. And by the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Kamalesh, and I'm attached to Commercial Bank, working at the accounts department. So I have about 20 odd years experience in the bank, and as well as about 7 to 8 years in doing training for this business accounting. And this business accounting program actually has evolved over the past several years, I would say, because it evolves around with the requirements that are coming from the environment. So the accounting standards which are getting updated day by day. So as a result, this particular topic is also getting upgraded. So if you look at the past papers pertaining to this subject, I would say maybe from 2018 March onwards, it has taken a different dimension. So prior to that, we were running on a different accounting set of accounting standards. And now it has come to a level like what we are running currently is totally a different set of accounting standards from 2018 onwards, right? So in this course, we will be learning a lot of concepts relating to accounting. And also we will be touching upon several accounting standards, which are very important as far as your syllabus content is concerned and your examination. So what you have to be mindful is this is not a subject where you to make you all accounting experts, right? So this is a topic where you will have to understand that you are going to learn accounting to evaluate your customer propositions, right? So when it comes to the application of this, the knowledge that you gather from this module or course module is basically to make you understand the basic accounting concepts, and what is happening in the environment, how these financial statements are presented by different business organizations. Being in a bank, how do I evaluate my customers? How do I evaluate the financial statements given by my customers? Because when you are to offer a loan to a customer, first you need to know what is the financial position of that particular customer is. So it is very important for you to have the basic knowledge and understanding to interpret these financial statements when you are doing a credit evaluation. So our objective out of this course module is to understand these basic concepts and the knowledge that is required to evaluate the credit propositions of your customers. And also our primary objective is to achieve a pass or a distinction in this subject. Okay, so with that backdrop, I want to start with the course module. So we will do chapter by chapter. So I have already requested the IBSL to upload the first two topics that we are going to learn. And I think already you would have seen the two topics that are there, chapter 1 and 2. What I would say is maybe the first few 3 to 4 weeks will be like a very slow start that we will take, because all of you might not be having the background or the understanding of accounting at this level. So some of you might have not touched accounting at all, but some of you might have done, but you might have forgotten. So we will start with the basics, and maybe say for about 3 to 4 weeks, we will understand the basic concepts which are required in this subject. Thereafter, we will accelerate little by little into the most important topics of this subject. So by the time that we reach the 3 to 4 weeks, I would expect everybody to have the basic understanding and the knowledge with regard to business accounting, so that we can start on from there to learn the other topics. Okay, and timely revision is very important. You can't leave it for the last, because it is not a subject where you can keep it for the last to do all the revision. It's not practical. Accounting has to be learned then and there. When there are questions or clarification required, you have to refer it to me next class. So if you ask questions, I would be able to answer it to when during the class, or maybe you can post it as a message in the portal, not in the portal actually, during the class. I can provide you the answers. In addition to that, we will look how well we could respond to your questions and clarification, because what you need to understand is this is an online program that we are doing. Unlike where it is on a classroom where you are sitting and the interaction would be very much more. So here we need to understand that the online platform, there will be some disruptions, there will be some disturbances in between. So it is very important for you to concentrate, and wherever you need clarifications, you can always raise your hand by way of these icons that are provided, and you can post your question even on the text panel so that I can go through those. Right? So with that, let us go into the subject. Right, so we are going to start with our first topic, which is on business organizations and business environment. Business organizations and business environment. So those who are already taken printouts or whatever of this handout, you can make the notes in the respective slides itself. Others you can take down in an exercise book or whatever. Preferably, I would say you start taking notes in a CR book would be an advantage to you, because sometimes the questions when we do, you need adequate space. So it will be convenient for you all to do it in a CR book. So please make sure that you do take down notes wherever necessary, because some of the things that we will discuss may not be 100% on the slides. Okay, whatever that I would add additionally, you have to take down notes on those, and wherever it is necessary, I would also dictate notes so that you can take down those as well for your reference purposes. Right. So let's look at business entities. So what do you mean by business entity? Business entity is something, a business or a company. So in the environment, business environment, you get a lot of companies, various types of companies. So the name entity stands for the name of a company. Another name given for company is entity. So what do we try to understand here? There is a direct relationship between accounting and the business. Now, what we are trying to learn here is about business accounting. But in theory or in practice, we would say there is a close relationship or a direct relationship between the business and the accounting. Business and the accounting. Now, how does it happen? Accounting may not exist if the business are not in existence. Now, why you require accounting is because then only the businesses can survive. The businesses can survive. If you are running a business, you need to understand the purpose of the business. Why a business is being run. So there are several objectives of a particular business. These we call it as business objectives. Some of the objectives will be to earn a profit. Now everybody know what is a profit is, right? So businesses are formed to make profits. Okay. But there are certain businesses which are known as not for profit. There are organizations or businesses which are known as not for profit. So when you say not for profit means, what is their objective? Their objective could be for community services, such as charitable organizations, where they are running a business, but their objective is not to make a profit, but to serve this community. Okay. So every business has a motive or an objective. It could be for a profit or it could be not for a profit. It could be both. But when it comes to a business, for it to sustain for a longer period, you need to evaluate that business. You need to evaluate the particular business. Now, how do you evaluate? To evaluate, there comes an instrument known as accounting. Using accounting only, I can evaluate my business. Now, let's assume that there is a startup business. You are starting a business. And one of your colleagues are coming and asking you how well your business is running. How well your business is running. Now, what is the answer that you can give? You can say, yeah, my business is doing well. But how do you know whether your business is doing well? It is only achieved out of when you do accounting. Because you have to evaluate the results of your business in terms of rupees and cents. Now, these rupees and cents may be appropriate for a profitable or a profit-related organization. But it doesn't mean that in a not-for-profit organization, you don't require that. Still, there also you need accounting to look at how well you have performed in this particular business organization. Now, what are we talking about? We are calling them as business organizations. Business organizations. What are the business organizations that we have? As I told you, there could be an entity. Again, entity and business both give the same meaning. So there could be an entity which continues with a profit-making motive. As I told you, you see, there is a company or an entity which continues with a profit-making motive. No business is commenced to make a loss. No business is started or commenced with the objective of making losses. So every business organization will have the top priority to be making profits. Secondly, There could be business organizations or an entity which will manufacture goods and services, sells and distributes them. Now, this is a different kind of organization compared to the first one. This is an entity which manufactures goods and services. What they do, they manufacture goods, they produce goods, and they deliver it. That is what their target objective is. So the ultimate profit or loss, whatever it is, will be determined by its parent company. Its parent company. Thirdly, an employment generation entity. An employment generation entity. Now, this is again another organization or a type of a business where you are trying to generate employment for people. That is another different type of an organization. Number 4, it is a process that develops the wealth of the investors. That develops the wealth of the investors. So who are these investors? Who are these investors? Now, when there is a business organization, for you to start up this business, you need to have money. You need to have money. If you are rich enough to have your own money required for this business, then that means that is your capital. The amount of money that you require to start this business is known as the amount of capital that you require for a business. Now, alternatively, if you don't have this required money or the capital, then you will have to look for it from outside. You have to look for it from outside. Who else can help you with this required amount of money? So we'll say you are starting a business. So you wanted some money, but you don't have it. What is the first thing that you will do? You will go to your parents. You will go to your parents. You will go and tell your parents that you have a great idea to start up a business like this, but unfortunately, I don't have the required amount of money or the required amount of capital. We call it as capital. So can you help me? So your parents want you to achieve something. So they give you money. They give you money. Now what happens here? Because of this family relationship that you have here, your parents might give you this money free of charge. Or in other words, it will come to you in the form of a gift. So when it comes in the form of a gift, you have a responsibility to use it in the right manner. But sometimes, due to your negligence, it might get wasted also. But what happens? Generally, parents will not come back to their children and ask for this money that they have given. Right? That is where, when your parents have money. But if they say that they don't have money, then you will go and look at other options. What are the other options available to me? I will go to my colleagues. I will go to, sorry, before that you might go to your siblings, your brothers, sisters. If they say no to you, then you might go to your colleagues, your close friends. They will also say no sometimes. Then you have to go to the outer market. When I say market, means it is the business environment that you are planning to operate. So it is very important that you need to understand this concept, right? So can you see the board? You all can see the board?
Yes, sir, we can see the board.
Right. Okay. So now, this is your business. Let's say this is my business. Now, I require money. I require money. This is very important. Please try to understand this. This is the foundation for this whole subject. You need to understand this. So you require money. The amount of money that you require, we call it as what? We call it as what? So I want you all to respond. You can unmute yourself and you can talk. Then after that you can mute it, no problem. So the amount of money that you require is called what? Capital. Capital. Right? Capital. Now, you ask from your parents, so if suppose if they don't have, right, they might say no to you. They don't have, they can't give no. Then you go to your siblings. So they are also finding it difficult. They will also say no. Then you go to their colleagues. Right? Let's assume they are also saying that we are also running our businesses very tightly and struggling, so we are unable to give you money. Now, what is the option available to you? The option available to you is to go to the outer market. Now, when you go to the outer market, what are the options available to you? You can go to a bank. Asking for what? Asking for what?
Business loan.
What is it? Asking for?
Loan.
Loan. Very simple. Asking for a loan. Right? So, then the bank will go through all the procedures and see. Then they might say no to you. Okay? As what you all do. No, I was just kidding. So bank will look at what is your strength to service this loan. If you have the strength and if your business proposition is acceptable to them, they will grant you the loan. If not, you will go to some other financial institution who can lend money to you. We call them as financial institution. You can go to some other company who will know. We have finance companies, leasing companies, a lot of companies are there, right? So you can go to them and ask for funding. Then there could be another set of, I would say, a group will say, who might look at your business idea, right? Let me call it as a business idea. Right? So they look at your business idea to be one of the great ideas where there is a lot of prospect in terms of your business. So they would like to come and put money into your business. They would like to come and put money into your business because you require money. You require capital. So they are interested in coming and giving you that required sum of money to develop your business idea and start this business. Okay. Now, who are those people? Those people are known as investors, right? I'm trying to introduce several names. Now, banks, you know, financial institutions, no. But this set of people play a very important role because they look for these type of businesses and they come and put money. They come and put money. As a result, they are known as investors. They are known as investors. Can we take down this quickly? You can see the board, right? The board is clear to you all? Right, okay. So can you quickly take down this? Either you can take down in your exercise book or you can take down in the slides itself. Alongside the first slide, you can take down as reference. Okay, so you can either take a photograph and keep it, or you can write it down. Right? Okay. So now I have explained you who is an investor is. Okay. So What does the businesses do? It develops the wealth of the investors. The wealth of the investors. What do you mean by that? Now, investors will come and put money into your business. Are they coming and giving it to you free? No. Your parents, your siblings, your colleagues might give you free. But other than that, no one else will come and give you freely anything. So, why the investors are coming and putting money into your business or giving capital to you? Because they want something in return. They want something in return, or they want to improve their wealth or the money or the assets that they have. Now, if they come and give you 100 rupees today, they want it to take back as 120 rupees. Right? So that is their wealth. That is their wealth. So they don't want anything to be given free. If they are giving you 100 rupees means they want it as 120 rupees. Right? So that is very important. That is very important as far as an investor is concerned. But from the other side, what is your responsibility? Your responsibility will be you take their money, do your business, and you need to achieve something. What is that something is? What do you call it? What do you call it?
Profit.
Profit. So you see the first point? First point say an entity which continues with profit making motive. Now you see a relationship between the first point and the fourth point. Why? If an investor comes into your business to give you money, what is their objective? To make some return out of it. So if you are to provide them a good return, you need to make profit so that you can provide them a return. Okay, this whole concept has to be understood properly. Now we are looking at an organization. What is an organization is? Generally, we use these terms interchangeably. We say company, we say entity, we say organization, but actually speaking, these have different meanings. Okay, now let's look at what it is. An organization is. An organization is a social arrangement which pursues collective goals, controls its performance, and has a boundary separating it from its environment. So they say an organization is a social arrangement. Now, generally, what do we call these organizations is when a set of people get together and they form something. That is known as an organization. You organize people. People get organized and do things. So that is how this name organization comes from. Right? Now, what are some examples? When I give you these examples, you will understand. Multinational manufacturers. Now, these are big businesses. These are big businesses. Now, Toyota. Those are multinational companies. What do? They do vehicle manufacturing. Now, that is a big organization. As far as we are concerned, that is a big organization because they manufacture vehicles and they distribute globally. They distribute globally. So that is a multinational organization. Then what about this? A local product manufacturer. A local product manufacturer. Can you name a local product manufacturer? Let's say Damro. Damro produces furnitures to the local market because they produce it to the consumers of this country. Right? Of course, now they have gone globally and they have located in several other countries as well. But primarily, they were catering to the local market. A local authority. What do you mean by a local authority? Local authority is any authority that is serving, or a company, we don't normally call it as company. A local authority is where it serves to the community. In what form? For example, you can think of the utilities, water, electricity, telephones, and also like say your municipality facilities. So we normally call them as authorities. We call them as local authorities. They are also organizations. So don't take the meaning that organizations are always businesses. No, it has its own purpose. It has its own purpose. And the last one, or maybe say there is one. Yeah. Last one, before the last one. A charity. What does a charity do? Serving the community. Now you get a lot of charities like service organizations are there, right? Charity workers are there. So what do? They don't have any profit motive. They have other motives, like they get self-satisfaction by serving the community, right? Or maybe they want to, if they have excess money, they want to do something to the society. So that becomes a charitable organization. We call them as a charitable organization. And the last one, you might have already seen, where a trade union, that is also an organization. A trade union means it is a combination of several people, where it led by a committee or a later set of office bearers, and the objective of those office bearers or the committee will be to safeguard the interests of its members. Safeguard the interest of its members. So that is what called trade union. Trade union is also a type of an organization. I'm just giving you some examples only. So you can have many examples of this kind. Now, how do we identify these organizations? The first criteria would be in terms of ownership. Now, how does this ownership gives you an idea with regard to the type of organization that you are having? We call them, some are owned by private owners or shareholders. Private owners or shareholders. As a result, these are called as private sector organizations. Private sector organizations. Then there are a set of another companies which are called as public sector organizations. Public sector organizations. Right. Now let me explain this on the board because very important. I hope you would have taken down this. Right. I will stick to the same diagram because what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce another important concept. Right. Now we are still in the same diagram. Right. In case if you don't see the board or maybe the presentation, please let me know because I am interchangeably using these two. So now I am writing on the board. Okay. Right. Hope you can see. Now the money that is required by you to the business is known as capital. Right. If you are not going to bring in this capital, and if somebody else, or it could be one or it could be several, right? Several people are coming and giving you money or capital, right? Investor 1, investor 1, investor 2, investor 3, investor 4. Likewise, there are several. Now, when you have more and more investors, we call them with a special name. We call them with the name of shareholders. We call them with a special name, shareholders. So what happens actually? You wanted capital, here they come and give you the capital. So when they give you the capital, what happens? The business ownership automatically goes to them. It is your business idea, everything is fine. But the business is yours. Ownership of the business goes to these people. And these people are known as shareholders. Shareholders. Very important. This term, shareholders, have to be understood. The people, or it could be again a company also. So in other words, I would say investors. So what have they done? The shareholders give you capital. You have to make a profit. You have to make profit. From that profit, you have to give something back to these people. You have to give something back to these people. That is called the return. Return. Okay. So you need to provide them a return for their investment. So you might have heard this term, return on investment. I hope you would have heard this term, return on investment. What do you mean by return on investment? We call it as ROI. What do you mean by ROI? ROI is if I am going and putting money into something, if I am getting something back which is more than the value that I put in, that is the return on investment. As I told you, if I go and put 100 and if I am getting as 120 as return, which means that is my ROI will be 20%. Why? I'm getting 120, so 20 is my return. 20 is my return. Very important. Okay. So you can take down who is a shareholder. Anybody who have invested in your business, where they have provided capital to you. So why they provided capital? Because they have an interest in your business. So your duty is to make profit and provide something in return to them. Okay? Please take down quickly. Okay, so we'll proceed. Right, so first criteria is some are owned by private owners. So I told you shareholders. Shareholders are private owners. I told you they are the owners of the business. Your business idea, but they are the owners of the business. And they become the shareholders. As a result, we call them as private sector organizations. Private sector organizations. Now, similarly, there could be a situation where the shareholder is the government. The shareholder is the government. Now, in such situations, what happens? You call it as a public sector organization. Public sector organization. So, broadly, you get two. What are the two items? Organizations? Private sector organizations and public sector organizations. It is very easy to understand what is a public sector organization. Public sector organization is any organization where the shareholder is the government. But when you look at a private sector organization, it is not the government, but other private owners will be there as the owners of the company. Okay? So ownership is one of the first criteria where you understand how an organization can be segregated. You have two criteria, two types of organizations: private sector and public sector. Then you have something called control. With regard to the control, who is controlling this company? So some are controlled by the owners, but many are by people working on their behalf. People working on their behalf. Very important, right? Now this is another concept. This is another concept. Why I am taking such time to explain these is because these are the things that we are going to take forward. So very important, right? Now, let us look at this scenario. First one we understood, private owners versus government owners. Now let's look at a private sector organization. Now you see there are a lot of investors or owners or shareholders. Now it is very difficult for all these to come and manage your business. Manage your business. We call it as control. We call it as control. So not all of these can come and control your organization. It is not practical. It is not practical. So what they will do is they will appoint a set of people to manage this business. Now it is your business idea, all those is fine. But you can't be running the business in your own, alone, right? So now these people will bring in a set of another group to manage this business. Right? So you need to understand that is the people working on their behalf. Now what is going to happen here is they will bring in somebody called have you heard of these people? Board of directors. Board of directors. Now they are another set of people who are brought in to manage this business. To manage this business or to control this business. To control this business. Now what is going to happen is They are the ones who will make decisions. Okay? So you also can be part of this because it is your business idea, no? So they might want you also to be one of the directors to make decisions. So you also include in this, and you are part of the board of directors, and these are the people who will make decisions for the betterment of this company or the organization. Now, what is going to happen? There is an arrangement here. We call that principal and agent. Principal and agent. Now, who is the principal here? Principal is here. The owners. They are the principal. And this set of board of directors will become the agents. So, the principal appoints an agent to make decisions for this business. To make decisions for this business. Because they are the ones who are going to manage or control this particular business. The board of directors. Okay? So you have the shareholders, then you have this board of directors, board of directors are the ones who are going to control this business, and they have a relationship of principal agent. Principal agent. This is very common relationship in business organizations. The principal agent relationship, very important, because companies are run like that. Companies are run like that, where the board of directors will make decisions on behalf of the shareholders or the owners. Okay, right. So can we take down? I want to give you a small note here. You can take down. Business organizations are owned by shareholders. Owned by shareholders. Business organizations are owned by shareholders. However, they are not involved. They are not involved in managing or controlling business activities of the organization. Business activities of the organization. Therefore, the shareholders may appoint The shareholders may appoint a board of directors. A board of directors by creating a principal agent relationship. By creating a principal agent relationship. Okay, right. So we were looking at the control perspective of the organization. So how the control takes place? The organizations are primarily controlled by the owners, but in most cases what they will do is they will appoint another set of people to manage the business. They are called the board of directors. Third one, the activity. So you can define an organization or classify an organization in terms of the activity that they carry out. So organizations may carry out activities such as manufacturing. They produce goods. But on the other hand, there could be organizations which are providing services. Say, for example, healthcare services. So you go to a hospital and you obtain a healthcare service. You don't purchase anything there. You go to a hotel and what you observe? Like you get hospitality service. Similarly, when people come to your bank, what do they get? What do people get from when they come to your bank?
Customer service.
Customer service. More than that, what do you call it? Now here I told you hospitality, that is from the hotels. Then I mentioned about healthcare services, that is from the hospitals. So when people come to banks, what is the type of service that they get?
Financial service.
Very good. Financial services. So that's why banks are called as financial services organization. Please make a note. Banks are known as financial services organization because we don't sell goods. Are we selling anything in the bank? No, we are not selling anything. We are providing financial services. To our customers. Okay. But when you go to a tire manufacturer, car tire manufacturer, what do? They manufacture goods. Tire is a good, right? So their type of service is different. That is known as their activity. But when it comes to a bank, our activity is providing financial service. That also differentiates the two types of organization. What is a manufacturing organization and what is a financial services organization? Okay. Next one. By legal status. What do you mean by that? How you are known or how you are perceived by people in the society. So there are primarily two types of companies that we talk about. There are actually three, but for the time being we'll take as two. There may be limited companies and there are partnerships. partnerships. So we will understand what companies are and what is partnership is when we go on with the rest of the slides. And last, with in terms of the size or scale of the business. So businesses may be a small family business or a multinational corporation. Okay. So you need to know companies can be family businesses, a small type of business, right? Where the father, son, mother, the close relationships will get involved in the business. But what is multinational corporation? Where it is a global company. Investors will come in and they will invest in your company. Your businesses are widespread. So those are called multinational corporation. So it is in terms of the size of the business. Now today we call businesses with in terms of their asset size. Asset size. Now these days, I don't know, some of you might be from that organization as well. Now today we observe an advertisement that is going on in the media where there is a ₹1 trillion worth company. What is that?
Bank of Ceylon.
Bank of Ceylon. Very good. So what do you mean by that? That is in terms of size. That is in terms of scale of the business, because it's a huge company. Bank of Ceylon is one of the biggest state-owned banks today, which is having a $3 trillion worth assets. $3 trillion worth assets. That is very huge in terms of a country like ours. Okay, so business organizations can be classified in terms of ownership, in terms of control, in terms of activity, in terms of legal status, and in terms of size or scale. Right? Now we go into the types of businesses. So I'll straight away put it into one screen. As I told you, in the previous slide, we looked at only two divisions as business companies. Now here we see that altogether there are three types. Now see what is going to happen. Now going back to my original example, which I wrote in the board, I drew in the board, where you start up a business and you put capital. No one else is coming, you put capital. Right? Let me go to the board. Right. Now look at the example. Here, your business, you put capital. When you put capital, that type of a business is known as a sole proprietorship. Okay, please understand that properly. Your business, you put capital means that is a sole proprietorship. Right? Now you want to start this business, but you don't have adequate capital. You don't have adequate capital. What do? You go to your friends. So you go to your friends and say, look, I have a bright business idea to start up as a business, but we need some capital. We need about 100, not 100, 100 is too much. Let's say I need about 10 million. 10 million to start up this business. So you go and tell your friends that look, we need about 10 million, but I have only 4 million. So can you come and contribute into this business? So your friends say, okay, we also like to come and help you. So there are 3 friends coming, A, B, and C, along with you. So you have already put 4 million. A is coming and putting 3 million. B is giving you 2 million, and C is giving you 1 million. 4, 3, 7, 2, 9, 10. Now what has happened? Earlier, it was only you. So you called it as a sole proprietorship. I am the owner of this business, no one else. I only can make decisions. Anything happens to the business, I am responsible for it, no one else. But now the concept is slightly changing because I don't have 10 million with me. So I am going to my friends, A, B, C, and I'm telling them, look, I need 10 million, but I have only 4 million. Would you like to come and contribute into the balance? Would you like to come and contribute to the balance? So 3 of your friends, good friends, raise their hand and they would like to support you, to take in them. So now, how many people are running this business? 4. And they have contributed capital in this manner. So now, the business is not yours alone. You are not the only owner. A, B, C, and you. What have you all have done? You have come into a agreement. Look, 4 of us have joined, and we are going to start this business by putting 10 million in this ratio. When we make profits, we will distribute among ourselves in this manner. So there is an agreement. When you do an agreement of that kind, your business becomes a partnership. Very important. Right? From a sole proprietorship, now your business turns into a partnership. Okay? Now your business is growing. Little by little, your business is growing. And you need more and more money. You need more and more money. So now you need around 50 million because you are expanding your business. So you need more money coming in. Let's say you need 150 million. So that is a big sum. So likewise, you can go to your existing friends, ask for this amount. Sometimes they might say, no, we don't have. You can bring in a new friend who might give you partly. Likewise, you can get in people. Right? The moment you exceed 20 people, you can't call it as a partnership. You can't call it as a partnership. What happens? That becomes a company. That becomes a company limited by limited company. So how the differentiation happens? We started with a sole proprietorship, then we ended up making a partnership. Now we ended up in creating a company. So when you create a company, the company has to be registered under a specific act of this country, right? And the moment it becomes a company, you get shareholders coming in more and more. That is what the concept of right. So initially we saw sole proprietorship, then we saw partnership, It has to be less than 20, more than 2 or less than 20, because when it is 1, it's a sole proprietor. When it is more than 2 or more, less than 20 means it's a partnership. When it is beyond that, it becomes a company. So when it is a company, this company has to be registered under this act called Companies Act number 7 of 2007. You will hear this word or the term throughout this course. We will go back and refer this Companies Act number 7 of 2007 several times. Okay, what does it mean? It's a company registered under the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. So those are the types of businesses. Then you also have limited companies, which says that the responsibility of the company is limited to the assets of the company, and it is known as under its articles. So that is, we don't want to go into details. What do you mean by limited companies? Now you have set up a company and you make losses. You make losses where you set up the company to make profit, but now you make losses. When you make losses, there could be one time there you have to pay outsiders. So here, there could be a situation where you are not in a position to pay outsiders because you are short of cash. You are short of cash. So what happens then? Your responsibility will get limited. Your responsibility will get limited to a certain quantum. That certain quantum is known as your assets of the company. I don't want to introduce this term now because we will have to learn separately what is an asset and everything. So let us look at it at that point. But for the time being, you remember that limited companies are also a part of a company where their responsibility will get limited to the assets that they have. Then you also have unlimited companies. Those we will look at later. Then we come to the state companies. State companies mean these are companies registered under the Companies Act, and more than 51% of the share capital is owned by the government. So I told you earlier, private sector and public sector, right? Private sector and public sector. So public sector organization is where there is an investment by the government. Now, when the government invests, they also have an ownership. They also have ownership. But their ownership is in terms of a percentage that we are looking at. So let me explain it. Now, when you look at this, let's say your capital requirement is 100 million. Okay. You have only 20 million. Since your business idea is a good one, the government is willing to invest 80 million. The government. So your investment is 20 million, government is investing 80 million. Your total requirement is 100 million. So now look at what is the proportion of ownership in this company. You are going to own only 20%. Why? Total is 100 million. Of that, you are owning only, you have put only 20 million. But the government has put 80 million. This is known as ownership. So how do you identify the ownership? Ownership is determined in terms of investment. In terms of investment. From the total capital, how much you have invested. So if you have invested 20 million out of the total 100 million, your percentage is 20. So your ownership is 20. But if the government has invested in this 80 million out of 100 million, their ownership is 80. So any company where the government has invested more than 51%, 51%, please note that more than 51% means that is a state organization. State organization. Now in Sri Lanka, you know, we call the Bank of Ceylon and the People's Bank as state banks. As the state banks. Why? The ownership is with the government. Okay. Likewise, we have other organizations in this country where the ownership is with the government. Now I'm going to give you those type of ones, right? Now you see the Ceylon, the electricity company, Lanka Electricity Company, where the ownership is more than 50%. Now you might have to ask me why it is 51%. Why it has to be 51%? Can anyone answer? What happens if the ownership is 50%?
Equal share.
Equal share. Very good. So what happens there? There won't be any majority, isn't it? So
Yes.
when you have a majority only, you have the control. So now you have to relate all these terms that we learned. Here another term coming in, you have now ownership. So if your ownership is 51% or more only, you have a better control, right? So the government doesn't want to go and invest in a company where they don't have a better control. So what do we say here? If they have an ownership of more than 51% or more, then that becomes a state-owned organization or state company. Then we also call state corporations. State corporations, these are also owned by the government, such as Sri Lanka Rupawahini Corporation, State Pharmaceutical Corporation, the Water Board. All these are known examples to you. Known examples to you. Those we call it as state corporations. Right. The next few slides are just the advantages and disadvantages of the different types of companies, right? So I'm not going to go into detail. You just read through those. You will understand when we learn those, the topics, you will understand. Now, if I am to explain what is taxation and all, it will be very complicated. So for the time being, let's park it. You can just read through them, but we will understand the terms later, right? Okay. Now we are going to look at who are the parties interested in business, or we also call them the users of financial information. Users of financial information. So business organizations, as I told you, when they operate, they have a motive. Either they have to make profits, or they have to run a not-for-profit organization with a motive of serving the community, charitable, right? But end of the day, people, there are a set of people who are interested in the financial performance of the company. Financial performance of the company. So in order to look at your financial performance, what do I need? I need financial information. I need financial information. So what is this financial information? I want to know how much you have earned the profit, how much of assets that you have, how much of cash you have, So these are the financial information I would like to know about a company. Now, in every organization, there are parties interested in that particular business organization. Now, what we are going to look at is who are those people interested in a company. So I have put it on a table for easy understanding. So we call it as who is the interested party and why do they want it? User and the usefulness, right? User is who is going to use the financial information of the company and what are they going to use it for? Okay, right. Let's look at the owners, shareholders, or partners, as I explained to you earlier. It could be individuals, it could be insurance companies, or it could be investors. What do they look for to decide on the investment? Now I told you, return on investment. If I want to understand whether this company is going to give me an adequate return or not, I need to know the financial performance of this company. Okay. If the return is not adequate, what do? I don't want to continue with this investment. I will take my money back. Okay. Very important. So I want to make a decision as an investor. I want to make a decision with regard to my investment, whether it is worth keeping there or not. Whether it is worth keeping there or not. Secondly, to decide whether the organization can distribute the dividends. Now, this is another term that we are trying to understand. Now, I told you, a company, you go and invest in a company. Okay. You go and invest in a company. You invest 100 million. If you are going to get back as return 120 million or 120 rupees, that 20 is your return. That 20 is your return. In accounting terms, we call this return as with the term dividends. Term dividends. So you have to be very, please note that term. When a shareholder or an investor invests in a company, a certain amount of money, where you call it as capital. Why they are investing capital? Because they want something in return. So the return that they are going to get is known as dividends. Is known as dividends. So return is basically known as the amount which is paid by the company, and that is called dividends. Okay. The next usefulness is to decide on the stability of the company. Stability means whether this company is strong enough to continue. Now, when companies are running, they don't run the company with the expectation is to close down tomorrow or maybe in the near future. We don't run businesses with the intention of closing down. Every business is run with the intention of running it for a longer period. We call that as sustainability. Sustainability. You have to sustain your business. Right? So how you decide your sustainability or stability? Using the financial information. Using the financial information. Then you get the second category of users of information. We call them as lenders. Lenders. People who can give you money. Okay. People who can give you money. If you can recall my example on the board, the first option that I took is to go to a bank. Then I said, go to a Any other financial institution? Who are those? Leasing company, finance company. Then the third option was to go to the shareholders. So before going to the shareholders, I can go to the banks and any other financial institutions asking for the capital requirement. So those are becoming lenders to the organization. Lenders, we call them as lenders, right? We don't call them as shareholders. So what are they going to do when they give money to the bank? They want to ensure the ability of recovering the capital and interest. So when the bank is giving a loan is not given free. For the loan, you have to repay interest along with the capital. You have to pay the capital as well as interest for the loan, right? So the person who has lent money, the bank, would like to understand whether you have the capability of repaying your loan. Then secondly, security of the loan given. What do you mean by security of the loan? Security of the loan means whether you have given anything as a safety measure. Now, for example, you might have heard this term collateral or securities. Now, when you are taking a housing loan from a bank, what the bank will do? Bank will mortgage that property to the bank. There will be a mortgage bond which you may have to sign when you are taking a housing loan. Why that is done? Why that is done?
To secure the loan.
Yes, to safeguard the lending that you do. When you give a loan of 100 million, if the customer doesn't pay, I need to have an option to recover that money. So what do? I ask the customer, you give me something in collateral form or security form, so that if you don't pay, I will recover it from this house or anything by selling it. Okay. So that is what we call it as in banks. What do you call it when you sell the property of the customer? Have you all heard? What is that process is called?
Parate.
Parate execution. We call it as parate execution. Parate, P-A-R-A-T-E. Parate execution, where the property will be auctioned and then it will be sold to somebody. When you sell it, the money that you get will be first used to recover your loan. The bank will first use it to recover the loan. And if there is any leftover, that leftover will be given to the customer. But sometimes what happens? The value that you have determined to the property that you are going to sell might be less than the loan amount that you have given. Okay. So in such situations, the bank might have to bear the loss. Bank might have to bear the loss. So the next type of user of financial information is the general public, like us. Now, if you want to know about a company's performance, what do? Where do you go? So let's say, for example, you want to know about, I just take this example. You want to find out about John Keells. Right? John Keells is one of the conglomerates in the country. So I am just taking them as an example. You want to find out about John Keells, whether they are performing well or not. So now, when you want to find out about John Keells, you become a general public. You might be a consumer group. So why do you want to understand? You want to understand whether the company products are good for the public, whether the company operations badly affects the environment. Now, say for example, in the recent past, there were a lot of allegations against certain products of Nestle. You would have come across, right? This is not just to make you all understand only, I'm giving these examples. Now, there was a criticism against Nestle. What was it? Can anyone tell me? Does anyone know? There was a huge criticism about these Maggi noodles. I think you would have heard, right? So sometimes what happens, people might get driven with these type of news that is going around. So you want to find out about whether the company products are good for the public, whether the company operations badly affect the environment, whether they are, how they are making this amount of profits. So all those are very important information for a public, general public, right? You become the user of the financial information of the company. Then we may also have the management. What do you mean by management? The people working for the company. The people working for the company, the managing director, the corporate management, senior management, divisional heads, managers, even the first level staff, all will be interested to know what the company is doing. Say, for example, let's take our organization, respective organization. So we want to ensure that our company is doing well. Why? If the company is not doing well, then of course you are not going to get your salaries paid. You are not going to get your allowances paid. You are not going to get your facilities that you have right now. All those will be in trouble. So why, as part of the organization, being an employee, I am also interested to know what my organization is doing and what is its performance. The financial information will be very, very important to me as well, because I need to see whether I can continue with this organization or not. Now, in the recent past, you would have observed that a lot of companies, they have retrenched staff. They sent home staff, or maybe they have cut down their salaries. A lot of things have happened with this COVID pandemic. So when something like those kind of things happen, you need to understand why those are coming up, whether the financial performance of the company has come down. Those are the information that you need to find out. So I told you that even employees, the trade unions are also part a group. Then we also have suppliers and creditors. I am not going to discuss the term creditors now. It's too early for us to discuss. But let's look at the suppliers. Now, if you are an apparel company, you are manufacturing, let's say, t-shirts. So you need your raw materials. So somebody else will be supplying you the raw materials. Okay. Now the person who is supplying raw materials will be very much interested to know what your company is doing and what is your performance, what is your strength. Why? Because otherwise, if I am supplying raw materials to your company, and if you are not in a position to pay me for those raw materials, then how am I going to survive with my business? Right? It is very important for me to know what you are doing and what is your financial strength is. Otherwise, what will happen? You are not going to pay me also for the raw materials that I have given you. Okay. So suppliers also will be interested to know what the company is doing. And then most importantly, the government. Now, every company in this country will be subject to tax payments. Why? The government runs with the taxes collected from those corporates, and the public is how their government is running. So the tax authorities would like to know what the company is doing. What is their level of performance? Whether they are paying adequate taxes for the profits that they make. whether the company has adhered to the regulations. Sometimes you might be running an illegal business. If it is against the law of the country, then you could be punished. Whether the disclosure requirements in financial statements have been made. Now for the banks, there is a regulator. We call them as regulator, where regulator is the central bank. So for the banks, there is a regulator, governing authority or monitoring authority, who is called as the central bank. So central bank will always monitor the banks to see whether they are giving adequate information to the public. Why? Why it is necessary? Why is it necessary for a bank to provide adequate information to the public? Because you are dealing with public money. You are dealing with public money. Why? You are accepting deposits and you are lending. So you are actually accepting deposits of the customers. Again, let me take another example, because when you understand with examples only, you will understand more. Now, recently, you know what happened with the ETI. Does anyone know? Does anyone know what happened with ETI Holdings? Or do you know what is ETI?
Ethirasingha Trust Investment.
What is it?
Ethirasingha Trust Investments.
So what happened with them? They were mobilizing deposits from public, right? Assuring higher return to them, assuring a higher return to them. So those invested in those who have invested in those in that particular company now in trouble. Why? The company is unable to repay the deposits to the customers because they are almost bankrupt. They are almost bankrupt. So now the central bank has intervened and they are now taking a process to repay all these depositors. So what is happening here? The banks have a huge responsibility when it comes to providing financial information to the public, because they are dealing with public money. Public. Then you also have consumer authorities. Consumer authorities, what do? Whether the activities of the company is detrimental to the customers, providing not, let's say, not hygienic food, or selling products which are harmful to the consumers, all those can happen. So as users of financial or other information of businesses, the businesses also have a responsibility to provide information to those users. So when it comes to business accounting, what we are focused here is the relationship between the users and providing financial information for those users. Okay, so now there could be companies with various other information requirements. Those are not covered here. We are looking at here who are the users of financial information and what is the level of information that they require and for what. Okay, those are the things that we are looking at. Then we also going to look at what is the accounting environment that we are talking about. Now we are talking about businesses and then we are talking about accounting. So what do you mean by accounting environment? The environment that the businesses are operating and what level of accounting that they have to do. So the accounting environment can be divided into two components. One is called the internal environment. Second is known as the external environment. What do you mean by internal environment? Internal environment is where the company is controlled by its management. The company is controlled by its internal management, like the corporate management, senior management, middle management, or you may call it the managing director. Whoever gets involved in managing the day-to-day business of the company. But external environment is anything outside the company, beyond the control of the company or the business, is known as external environment. Say, for example, if it is a bank, the central bank can come to the bank and ask for can come to the bank for audit or inspection purposes. The auditors can come to the banks. They are also part of the external environment. The government, Inland Revenue Department, can come to the banks for tax queries. They are also external environment. Even the customers can come to the bank and inquire. They are also part of the external environment. So anything beyond the boundaries of the company will be considered as external environment. So this is just an example of who and who will be involved in the internal environment. You get the shareholders, you get the managers, you get the employees, and most importantly, the entity's culture. So every organization preserves their culture, and they give very much importance to their culture, because people say you will not get the same culture in another organization. So culture is something specific to an organization which they want to preserve, and all those happens within the internal environment. And in the external environment, you have the external authorities and the pressures that are coming. Say, for example, there are legal authorities looking at whether you are running an ethical business or not. There could be economical and political authorities looking at your business, whether you are running the business economically, and whether there are any political influences. So many things are looked at. Then there are organizations or authorities which can look into your cultural affairs, like whether the businesses are run in a more ethical, cultural manner without doing any harm to the employees or maybe the outer organization. Then also you can have technical and professional authorities who are monitoring your organization, like the auditors, the lawyers. Those are from the external environment. Then finally, you also have the technological, that is the IT perspective of the organization. Now, you know, most of the banks are run with computer systems. Now, these computer systems have a huge dependency on the survival of the company. Because why? All your information, customer related information, internal operational information is maintained in these systems. So you have to incur large amount of costs to maintain these systems. So the technological advancements or the improvements that happens from it every day has a huge impact on the organization. I can give you a simple example. People today have mobile phones. What happens? In a few months' time, your phone becomes outdated or obsolete. Why? Every other day there is a new model coming in. So likewise, even with IT systems, what happens? Every day there are modifications, developments that are happening. So there is a lot of pressure from the external environment on the organization in terms of information technology. So what I have shown here is all the pressure that is coming into a business organization from the external environment. Okay. So when you look at an organization, the organization has a prime responsibility to manage the pressure coming from internal environment as well as from the external environment. So in order to maintain or manage this pressure, the company should have pre-arrangements. Now this is what we are going to look at there. So the company has to have several committees within the organization to manage these situations or the pressures. So there are few committees which are very common to any organization. So what are the committees? You get something called executive committee to govern or administer. So this is at the highest level. When you look at an organization, who is at the highest level? It is the board of directors. It is the board of directors. Soon after the board of directors, what will happen? There will be a managing director or chief operating officer, or there could be a corporate management. Then there could be a senior management, senior managers, chief managers, and so on. Then you have the middle management, the managers, right? The executives, all those. Then you have the last layer, which is the first level staff. So what happens in organizations, there will be several committees formed to manage these different purposes. So the executive committee, which is the board of directors, they are the ones who are going to make all the decisions for the organization. All the decisions for the organization. Then there could be standing committees. They are formed for a particular purpose. They are formed for a particular purpose. Now, when you look at financial statements or maybe the annual reports of companies, you will observe there are several other committees formed, which are consisting of the board of directors, several committees for different purposes, right? There could be ad hoc committees. You form it today, then you, after the project is over, you dismantle. That is called an ad hoc committee. Then there could be subcommittees. You have a main committee. In order to assist the main committee, you might have a subcommittee. Now, say for example, your bank is running a savings campaign. Your bank is running a savings campaign. So how do you want to manage it? You get down all the senior management into this particular project and you form a committee. Now the senior management cannot be running this project alone. They want the assistance of people below them. So what do? They get the managers of the branches, maybe the support staff, and they will formulate individual committees, like we call them as subcommittees. So what do? The major activity, main activity is broken down into small pieces. So these subcommittees will perform the task given to them, and then they will go and report to the main committee. Okay. Likewise, whenever the executive committee makes certain decisions for the benefit of the organization, those decisions have to be carried out within the organization. So who will get involved in doing that? Those will be the management committees. The management committee. So I would request, when you get back to your respective organizations on the Monday or maybe say during next week, I would want you all to go back to your respective organizations and look at how these committees work within your organization. Now you have a set of board of directors, and under them there will be several standing committees. Then from that standing committees, you will have some management committees. Then you might have some subcommittees. So it is good to know what is there in your respective organization. Since you all are working for a bank, go back and look at these in your respective organization, how these committees are formulated, how they do activities, how they make decisions. All these are very important. I'm just telling you because it will be very important for you to improve your knowledge, right? So this is not going to help you in doing accounting. That's a different story. But just for knowledge purposes, you need to know what are the committees that your organization has and what are the duties that they perform. Because in this particular subject, there is one chapter where it requires you to know the regulations within the bank. Okay, regulations relating to the bank. In that, they discuss about the committees. So we have some more important committees where we have to learn that we will do later. But just for the time being, you have to look at what does your organization has. It's good to know what your organization has. Okay, right. So we have come to the end of chapter 1. So we will stop there. And I would urge you all to revise all what we learned today, right? Because it's very important for you to know what we learned today, and do revise. And we will meet up next week. I think the chapter 2 is also uploaded to the portal. So please make use of taking the printout of that also and go through it. We will discuss in the class next week. Okay. So stay safe, and we'll meet you next week.